When we discuss the term jump scare, whether it's in the movies, shows, or games, the same common sentiments that seem to always creep up are something along the lines of them being a cheap way to elicit a fear response. Usually by just unexpectedly throwing out a loud noise with an egregiously forgettable CGI JPEG adjacent face. Something akin to what you would find on creepypasta.com. The complaint is really being that this common way of scaring the viewer is no different than a friend jumping out behind a door and shouting boo. There is not this long-lasting dread that remains and lingers in your mind like a true horror experience should provide. A poor jump scare is nothing more than an adrenaline kick, and if that's all your scare is able to provide, then I believe you're missing the point. But this is not to say that a jump scare can't be more than what I just described. I would wager that, in fact, if a jump scare is done correctly, it can provide some of the most memorable and effective moments the medium has to offer. With this being said, before we go forward, let's discuss what makes a jump scare. The main components that make a jump scare awesome, I believe, can be broken down into 3 stages. The build-up, the horror, and the aftermath. I think this scene from one of my favorite movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, exemplifies this.
Is anybody home? Hello? Hey, Pam. Hello?
The protagonist walks into a house, hearing animal noises and seeing skulls on the wall. Bubba then proceeds to jump out and then boink the protag. Silence then follows as Bubba drags her away. Of course, just having these things alone doesn't always make a jump scare good, but they should at least be the standard. With that being said, there are good jump scares that implement these steps, like the aforementioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre clip, and bad ones that use it like this one. What differentiates the two are how well the stages are implemented. Without further ado, let's talk about build-up. How is the scare set up? One factor that I find to be the most important whether or not the build-up in a scene works is believability. We all know the cringe trope of someone hearing a noise and investigating it in the dark, or the whole crew splitting up by themselves. Most viewers roll their eyes thinking, what smooth brain in their right mind would do that? For build-up to be effective, it has to be believable. The decisions the characters make leading into the scare have to make common sense and have to make sense with the world and the characters themselves. Otherwise, you'll just be making a movie that is the embodiment of the Geico commercial. The scare. The scare is the one part in the trio where I'm more lenient. I feel it's more subjective than the build-up or the aftermath. Just based on what horror is being presented, some people may find certain creatures or concepts more scary than others. I think that this, concept is pretty obvious. The only thing I'll say is that the CGI or practical effects and sound should be done well, and if the budget is in the lower end of the spectrum, I find it's better to be more subtle, implicate the horror, since what you might show could be too low budget or low quality to really be considered effective. Unless, of course, you're going for that low budget, cheesy feel, but that's not really what I'm talking about, because I want to consider that kind of feel to be horrifying. Even if budget isn't an issue, implicated horror can be more effective sometimes. Just look at the short film, Kid with a Camera. This short film is absolutely bone-chilling, and what it shows is next to nothing. Although I won't spoil it, go check it out. It's only 6 minutes on YouTube. Finally, we'll talk about the aftermath. Did the scene leave a tangible effect or change to the story? Was the change that it made meaningful and leave an impact on you? If it was early in the movie, did it set the tone for the rest of the movie? After the scare, you should be left holding your mouth in shock of what happened. I find that scares that have a good aftermath are ones that are not just transient. Ones that just happen because we're making another horror movie and it's been 10 minutes since the audience has seen a scare. The best aftermaths are ones that leave you with a revelation, either on how the horror works or maybe even something like who the threat actually was. For an example of one that demonstrates this. I'm so sorry. Anyways, let's check out this clip. Up until this point, we don't know what's wrong with Mia exactly, and in one quick jump scare it answers questions and creates even more. Perfection, if you ask me. And now I want you to forget everything I just told you, because sometimes they just work. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me nerd out and talk out my ass about the stuff that I'm into. I hope it was clear that this was just my opinion and how I value the horror media that I love. I also hope that maybe you just learned something, or even I just made you think of something in a different way. Or at least that you had as much fun watching it as I did making it. Be good.